Good morning. I'm standing in the centre aisle of this staggered junction. Up there is heading to the Upper Brannel Road where Hillmount is, and the Middle Brannel Road. Down there is heading down the Ballygowan Road into Belfast, and cars come out this side, and up to the right is Newton Breda, and then we've got Ballygowan and Roselawn crematorium up that way. But somewhere up here in this neglected woodland is the site of Con O'Neill's inauguration or coronation site, and that dates from 1600 or even long before. And I intend to try and make my way through those trees, and I intend to try and find the actual site. Mightn't get there, mightn't video the right site, but I'll give you some indication as to the shape of the land today. And it's sad that ancient sites, ancient historical sites like this have been allowed to go to rack and ruin, and that's the case right over the country. Anyway, here I go. And I've just come up the Manse road off the Ballygowan road, and you can see how neglected and grown up this whole area has become. And somewhere in front of me is the ancient Con O Neill on inauguration or Coronation Mound. And I'm looking for the highest point, and I'm not far off it. And it's quite obvious that this spot is not often visited by anybody. It's totally overgrown. And there's nothing to indicate a higher spot of earth here that I'm looking for. It could be in underneath those brambles, I just don't know. And you've absolutely no chance if you come here in the summertime, because this will all be nettles, I presume, and brambles. So I'm just wondering, as I trip on the brambles, oh yep, look at that, trying to trip me up. I'm just wondering, have I reached the high point? I just don't know. It's hard to see anywhere higher. And there is a bit of a pathway here, and there's a higher point here. And the whole place is covered with brambles. It's really hard to move about. So could this be the actual inauguration site? Am I walking on history here? As I get scrabbed, the things I do for YouTube, I don't know. Well, if this isn't the actual inauguration site mound, well then I must be literally yards away. This is a high point, and it's the only high point that I can see. This is a wildlife haven. Nothing has been in here for decades. This is the actual site of the coronation of Con O Neill, last Gaelic lord or king. He was inaugurated here in 1659. If this is the actual site, there would have been all sorts of people here. There would have been noblemen and warriors and harpists, musicians of every kind, camp followers, priests, balladeers, bards. They would have all been here, and there would have been a sumptuous feast. Maybe he went on for days. He was only 14, so he didn't actually take control from his father until a couple of years later. In 1601. I've got to try and get back down again. Yes, this appears to be a raised area here, and I was in at the other side of that. So I'm hopeful that I'm in the right place. And this whole area is just impenetrable. I must be mad. Because if you slip and fell here, and if you had no mobile phone like I have, Well, I have a mobile phone here. You'd be stuck. You really would. And we're only about 300 or 400 yards away from Castle Ray, or as some people know it, Grey Castle, or the Eagle's Nest, and it's away over that direction. And there's only a few short years before Hamilton and Montgomery took control of 2/3 of Conn's lands and brought in Scottish settlers, and these tuilles or hills of gathering were forgotten about and farmed over and ploughed up and let grow over, because they were a symbol of Gaelic independence, and the English and Scots overlords wanted them erased. They didn't want any symbol of Gaelic independence left. And up until recently, Con O Neill has almost been totally erased himself from Ulster history. But his name lives on in places like Conswater and the River Con, Consbrook Avenue, and the wee Con Bridge, which he is reputed to have walked over on that ill-fated raid to get drink that resulted in him losing his lands, and he was imprisoned in Carrickfergus Castle. Now, I have to get out of here. And this must have been like what the old forests of Ireland, north and south, were like before the Scotch planters came in and English planters came in and cut everything down in sight and left Ireland, north and south, bereft, and particularly in the north area, bereft of native, or not native, but natural woodland. And you can see why the boys of those times, the monks and monasteries and all the rest of it, would have travelled, found it easier to travel by boat to get to destinations, because you try travelling through this, I mean, you make slow progress, and most people couldn't afford a horse, so that would be a nightmare. I'm knackered and I've only come a few hundred yards. And all sorts of thieves and robbers would be, and animals, boar and wolves probably would have been laying in wait for you, bears maybe, I don't know. So travel by water was probably a better idea. Try not to trip. If I told my wife where I was and what I was doing, she'd go buck mad. And that is where I have just been. not encourage anybody to be as mad as me, because it is, as I say, impenetrable. It's nasty, the briars. I'm cut, as you can see.